This is the Armed Forces Radio in Seoul. Broadcasting on 610 kilocycles, we now bring you the news. Here is a message from the United Nations Commander-in-Chief, General Douglas MacArthur. To the Commander-in-Chief, North Korean forces, the early and total defeat and complete destruction of your armed forces and war-making potential is now inevitable. I shall anticipate your early decision upon this opportunity to avoid further shedding of blood and destruction of property. Signed, General Douglas MacArthur.
With the first official broadcast 60 years ago on October 4th, the American Forces Korea Network was born in the early days of the war. Over the next 60 years, what is now known as the American Forces Network Korea would see many milestones. In 1951, AFKN would broadcast throughout Korea in mobile vans called Kilroy, Vagabond, Gypsy, Homesteader, Rambler, and Mercury. These vans provided regional news radio service to military personnel throughout the war.
AFN Korea was established, if you will, from the beginnings of the Korean War, when they were operating out of deuce-and-a-half shelters, and it was primarily radio, but they were all mobile.
The first announcement of the signing of the Korean armistice in 1953 was heard by troops throughout the Republic of Korea. This agreement led to the transition from a network on wheels to the frontline network at its current location in Seoul. The final milestone of the 1950s was the first live telecast and newscast, providing entertainment, news, and a touch of home to the American service member. The 60s saw the expansion of TV and radio across the network, with major newscasts simulcast on radio and TV and the addition of limited FM radio service. In 1966, AFKN Vagabond was officially established as the flagship station. This required detachments to provide 3 hours a day of local programming.
Yes, one of the things we used to do was remote broadcasting from the sites around the country to let the servicemen know, no matter where they were, that we knew they were there. So we would get in the van or sometimes catch a hop on a helicopter and go to these remote sites all over the country to do live broadcasts.
In 1971, the network expanded with 13 TV rebroadcast transmitters across the peninsula. Another television milestone was set the following year, when service members were able to view live sports programming via satellite.
In 1975, there was a much larger staff. One of the things I noticed when I came in is how few people it requires to run the station now. There was an energy of all the people running around, and everyone was specialized. You either did AM radio, FM radio, TV news, TV sports, and people were involved in their own sections.
A new era in television launched in 1979, with AFKN being the first in Korea to provide all programming in color. Local TV stations followed with color broadcasting in 1980.
Certainly the move to color TV. I remember people, when I was here, I remember people who had worked here in the late 60s and 70s. The move to color television was big.
The network celebrated its 33rd anniversary with the launch of DoD satellite system SatNet. The service kicked off with a new slogan, AFKN, your satellite network. This single technological advancement is credited with being the largest milestone in the history of the American Forces Korea Network.
Well, we got satellite. So I got here in August of '83, and I want to say it was October, maybe, that satellite service came in. So then we were able to get the feed of CNN News. And so we were no longer needed to do the international and national news because we could get that off the satellite. So our roles really changed, and we were more in the role of covering local events.
It was really it was critical to use that dish not only for, downloading sports programs and things like that, but to also download audio programs that really strengthen the radio side of the house.
The 1988 Seoul Olympics was a historic time for both South Korea and the American Forces Korea Network. AFKN was the first military station to work with a major U.S. network to broadcast the games. From August 29th to October 5th, the network aired more than 225 hours of Olympic broadcast products.
It was a dynamic time to be here, to watch what was going on. The Asian Games were coming up, Olympics were coming up. I mean, the economy was getting revved up. I mean, it was right on the kind of the edge of Korea really taking off and becoming a major global player.
The 90s saw the first live telecasts originate from outside of Seoul, and AFKN began receiving multiple radio and TV channels by the end of the century. The American Forces Korea Network, or AFKN, changed with the new millennium to what we now know as the American Forces Network Korea, or AFN-K. With the change in name brought an expansion in programming from 1 TV channel to 8.
In the days before satellite, I can remember signing on at 3:30 in the afternoon with Gunsmoke. And now we have 8 channels, and it's all up to the minute. I remember watching NBC Nightly News that was 6 weeks old. Now it's just a couple hours old. So yeah, a lot of changes in the past 60 years.
In 2005, AFN Korea went online with www.afnkorea.net, allowing viewers to access command information 24 hours a day.
I think the single most defining moment for AFN Korea is the digital age. Back when I first started in this field, we used 2-inch tape, and they were huge. And we still use film chains. We still use audio tape, reel to reel, and we still use the old 33 1/3 records. Now everything is digital. Everything is computerized, down to the radio to all of our television products.
2 years later, AFN-K adopted a new radio format called AFN the Eagle, featuring the latest in popular music from the States. Over the past 60 years, viewers have witnessed many firsts for AFN Korea, from the first broadcast in 1950 to the transformation of the nightly newscast in 2008 into a 2-minute report.
Well, usually people are very surprised that we have the presence around the world that we do. And if I tell them how many stations that just the Army usually operates around the world, they're very impressed with those numbers. It's something that people that don't have a lot of understanding of the Department of Defense wouldn't realize that our audience is huge and our network is very huge, and they're very surprised about it.
Today, AFN-K has expanded its reach through Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, continuing its mission to inform, educate, and entertain those serving in Korea and their families.
It's very important. It's where the world is turning to. Everybody's going into social media right now. Facebook, MySpace is real big. As a DJ, it kind of connects me to, when you're in the studio and you're behind a microphone, it's kind of hard to connect with someone. But when you're able to talk with them instantly, they're able to type you a message or send you an instant message. It kind of connects you to the community. AFN the Eagle, serving America's best for 60 years.